Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Only 4 of us.
Brooke
We
just
lost someone.
dropped 30 seconds, and now she's gone. We'll continue without her. Welcome, everybody, to CLCI Live. We are back. Brooke is back, and now she's gone, but she will be back.
She was just here.
She was just here. Before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us on Facebook and YouTube. We love talking to people,
There she is.
interacting with you guys, and displaying your messages. It's free marketing for yourself to get on our little banner at the bottom with your messages. Although if you spam that with your website or your offerings, we will do something.
Oh my goodness.
Don't do that.
Don't give people ideas. Don't do it.
But today we are talking Coaching 101, or Self-Sabotage 101, not Coaching 101. That's our class. Last week we talked about how to break bad habits.
Self-sabotage, where we teach you how to sabotage yourself.
Yes. Which would that actually be kind of a fun class? Like, here's all the things you shouldn't do.
Here's all the things you should do if you want things to go wrong.
Yeah. Today we're talking about Self-Sabotage 101, sabotaging satisfaction. Does achievement leave you feeling empty?
Does it?
That seems like a not even an open-ended question. It's just yes or no. Does it?
It can sometimes. I mean, it doesn't always.
I said yes or no, Jen.
I mean, we are not that we're not that binary in our thinking, let's be honest. We are.
It's still not a yes or no answer.
Anthony is.
If I had to, I'd say no. But never mind. If you want yes or no, no.
Okay. I'm just being a pain in the butt. I would say
it's not a yes or no question.
It isn't. There's no way you can answer.
Yeah, you're right. But I will say it's common enough that it's a problem that needs to be dealt with. Hence why we're having the live. I think sometimes achievement and satisfaction is not entirely lasting long enough for enough people. And that might discourage them from, attempting new things.
I think the Rolling Stones wrote a song about it.
And then Britney Spears remade it.
Is it what song?
I don't know if they wrote that either. That might have not been an original. I'm not sure.
What song are you referencing? Is it?
I can't get no satisfaction.
Oh, I thought "Does Achievement Leave You Feeling Empty" was the name.
Yeah, that's a Rolling Stones song. Totally.
Gotcha. Not very catchy title.
100%.
Lisa, what do you guys think?
What do I think about what?
The question.
I've already forgotten it.
I'm just wondering if we told everybody to comment. I think we did, yeah.
We did. You weren't there for it, but we did.
Yes, that's true.
You weren't there for it last week either.
Did you last week?
We did do it.
Last
week
we
did
did
all the things right?
Yes, we did pretty good without you. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's actually fun and enjoyable.
Oh, I should go then.
Joe was on with us, and we had a good time with Joe.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I like it. So you're asking me about feeling satisfied with my success?
The question is, what the title is does achievement leave you feeling empty?
I think there have been times when yes, the answer has been yes, and there have been times when the answer is no. I think that there's always a sense of bittersweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it just really depends. Part of what I put in for research is, if you are anticipating that proverbial shoe to drop, that satisfaction can be a bit tainted. So I'm going to go with yes to both.
Mm-hmm. What about just not being satisfied at all? Like, have you ever achieved something or done something where it's completed and you're like, well, this was kind of a bust. This was not worth it.
Okay, this is going to be bad sharing this. I don't know if I should, but I will. So after I got married, like literally the same day, like that night,
Same day.
like after it was over, the wedding was over, I had a tremendous feeling of like emptiness and depression. Like I went into a genuine sensation of emptiness and depression where it was like, well, that was the biggest moment of my life. Like, and it's over, and like that's this huge thing, and it's done. And there were other things there that weren't ideal that were happening. But
Did you go into it excited? Like, was
Yes.
there a sense of anticipation?
yes, all of it, and it was a great fun night, and it was wonderful. And then I ended up alone taking a bath, and I just remember sitting in the bathtub and feeling tremendously depressed and sad. It was weird.
And because of that, you'll never get married again.
I mean, I think I was a very different human being then, and there was a lot I didn't understand. But it was just like, there's this big thing that like is so important and leads up to all of these things, and then it was like, okay, well that's over. What do you do now?
I think I've seen this sometimes with women having children, and it'll get us. I think that was even part of the Hidden Brain episode. Well, women will have children, and sometimes it'll be attributed to postpartum depression. But in the example that I'm referring to, the woman got evaluated, and they're like, "Nope, everything's normal. You don't, as far as we're concerned, as the psychiatrist, you don't have postpartum depression." And the woman on the Hidden Brain episode just felt empty. There was no sense of satisfaction after that sort of page was turned and she gave birth to her kid. Now, that being said, having kids is a process, and I guess you don't ever really stop being a parent once you are a parent. But in that moment, she achieved something or completed some, I guess, very important step in her life, and was left feeling empty.
I think it's probably, I didn't read that article that you're talking about. Melancholy is what I'm hearing you describe, that she was feeling melancholy.
I wouldn't even go as far to say melancholy. It's more of a lack of satisfaction.
There was a word they used for it. I don't remember what.
Languishing.
Languishing, yes.
Okay.
That was it.
Yes, it's funny. Steve shared this story. I had a friend that was was big. I mean, still is. But big lead singer of a band, and a big band that got very big. And he explained that like you hit big, and like you hit it big in the States, and then it's sort of you hit it big in other places, but then after that it's just sort of like about just slowing the fall from grace, essentially, like flowing, because you've hit your pinnacle, and then after that it's like it starts to go down. So it's just like about like, how do I slow down that downward sort of downhill moment? And it's just definitely an interesting thing. It's something that I have often wondered about people who have these tremendous successes, that feeling of like, okay, I've achieved it all, and doing that at a younger age, like I can imagine there's this feeling of like, what do I do with my life now?
It's like the people who hit their peak in high school.
Right.
It's Al Bundy from Married with Children, where he was like the star football player in high school, and then the rest of his life is just continuous bout of
You are too. When did you watch that? You're too young to have.
I know. I watched every morning when I was getting ready for high school. Like at 5 a.m, I'd be watching Married with Children because
That's funny.
And that probably did irreparable damage to my psyche as a teenager in every area of my life. But it's a great show. I love it. Me and Brooke were Al and Peggy for Halloween here.
We were. True story. But I mean, I think maybe in that moment, but that's what I mean. There's a sense of like bittersweetness that comes with tremendous success, because I think with like when you hit a big pinnacle or a milestone, there's always this question of that's over, right? There's always it's a chapter closing. I mean, it is, isn't it? Is it not? Is it? Am I
It
wrong?
is, and I think what a lot of optimists will say is like, but it's a new chapter's beginning. But that chapter just might be the epilogue, or that chapter just might be like, some sort of just mediocre interlude. There's no guarantee that things will get better.
I love Anthony's. So
I'm not saying it's a guarantee that things will get worse, except until you die. But until that happens, the possibilities are open.
Well, and that's
yeah. Go on.
I think that is one reason that we have a sense of like emptiness. I think there are other reasons too that can happen. What other reasons might people feel a sense of emptiness once they achieve something, other than a chapter closing?
Wait, what's the question? What other people feel that?
What other reasons?
Oh, what other reasons
might somebody achieve something and feel empty?
I think a good one for if you're trying to achieve a long-term goal, sometimes you sacrifice a lot of the things that matter to you to get to that goal, and once it's complete, they're gone. And really all you've got is that accolade, but not all these other things that you had to give up to get there.
So you've just invested a lot and you can't really get your investment back?
Essentially, yeah.
I think one is just your brain's broke. I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but it's maybe like you just have a psychiatric issue that really isn't solved with coaching. Like your brain just cannot produce the chemicals that reward you for, completing anything, like your dopamine or your I'm forgetting the other one, serotonin is just out of balance, and you need to see a professional. And if you get the right treatment, you'll be right as rain.
ADHD.
I think you have to be one who knows how to celebrate. And Brooke can tell you that I don't celebrate. I have a trouble with that. So when you say, you've got something wrong, maybe, or maybe it's not something that was learned, or life happenings happened, and the idea is if I get too excited, could something else happen in the negative side of things? Is there permission to be excited? Well, it's also then another concept could be it's a boastful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to get emotional here. And the boastful side is I never want to come across as a boastful place, because I know there's a lot of others who sacrifice as much as I do or anyone else does, and the achievement doesn't happen for them. So I don't want anybody else to feel bad. So it's that I probably people pleaser portion as well that shows up.
That definitely, that to me, I mean, I can see that people pleasery thing, and then it to me also makes me want to tap into like that. It's definitely people pleaser, but like I think with maturity and with a sense of sort of self-confidence and like knowing who you are, I think with that it becomes possible for people to be happy for other people, even when maybe they have not gotten to there yet. I think that is, like I think as we get older and we're more, solid in knowing who we are, I can celebrate somebody else's wins without it making my, lack of in that space or what have you, any less, making that shine, right? Like I want to celebrate with you. I want to celebrate with you, even no matter what. If you have something to celebrate, like that's who I am. Like let's celebrate, even if things I can set aside what's going on here so that I can celebrate with somebody else, and I want to. But furthermore, right? But yes, I think that celebrating is important. I think it's important for us to do. At least it's important. I don't know. It's important to me to some degree because it's like, what am I working towards?
Yeah.
What am I? That's important. I love the work too. I'm somebody who likes the learning.
Or the process of doing something
The
to
process
achieve
of
it.
learning, yeah, and that things don't always come easy. I think that yes, it's easy for me to do the things that come easy, but that gets boring after a while for me. So I like when it's a harder process to get somewhere, because I feel like I've accomplished something then, you know.
That was one of the tips, I think, in some of our reading, which is to focus on the process rather than the actual attainment of a goal. Where you're usually, and this can happen in coaching as well with newer coaches, you're hyper focused on the goal and maybe what the reward of that goal will be. And it's more about just like, how do I get there as fast and as efficiently as possible?
One of the things I don't do is set goals. I set commitments. What am I willing to commit to? So for me, even just that change of language is beneficial. It's one that I can work on, even if in the moment or when it should be done, that commitment shows up.
That's a good point, because you don't know how the client feels about the word goal. I'm the same way. Like, I don't like the word goal. I would rather set an intention or commit to something. And so I definitely think for coaches, checking in on the language rather than just talking goals without even seeing how they feel about that word is important. Yeah.
I don't think I use goal much. I mean, I do and I don't, but in like sessions, I don't think that's I guess I do have specific goals, but there are also, milestones or things I want to achieve. Mine are very specific though, and they're very measurable at this moment, at least, right? Like I want to finish my advanced free dive certification. Very specific and measurable, right? I know I have to hit certain skill markers to get there. I'm going to finish my advanced mermaid certification. Same thing, right?
Certified Mermaid Institute.
I'm already a certified. I'm already a certified
CMCI.
mermaid. I would like to be an advanced certified mermaid, which I'm already starting with Andy. So, and from there with scuba, we want to do our rescue diver. So all very, very, I guess, tangible, achievable, smart. They're smart. I think bigger goals, though, I might be a little less. So as I'm babbling, what I'm wondering is, with this concept of achieving, right? Do you imagine that maybe some of the emptiness might come from a lack of definition or like understanding of what somebody is working towards or why?
I mean, it's always possible, sure.
I think so, and I think if we had to put a word towards it, it'd be purpose. Towards like a greater purpose other than just checking a box. In my research, I think the book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He talks about finding meaning and purpose, and I think we did a live on this a while ago on purpose, where you need a little bit something more than just achievement of a goal. It has to go towards some mission or life philosophy that a person has, and if they don't have that sort of foundation, the achievement's kind of meaningless. It doesn't really connect to, and by meaningless, I mean it doesn't connect to other parts of a person's life or what they find valuable or important. It's just this free-floating checkbox that is checked and then doesn't lead anywhere else.
It's kind of it's funny because I've had this sort of feeling going on with I'm growing my Instagram, right? But like, for what purpose? That's always the question. Like, why? Like, I'm deliberately, I'm posting, I'm doing. But then I sat down and I was like, well, why? Like, I spend money and I do these shoots, these amazing things. And yes, there's a fantastic experience there. But I began sort of asking myself the why. And I definitely figured that out. And I'm not sure what the end goal that there is an ultimate end goal, but it is something. Yes, Anthony.
Would you care to share with us what that was?
But it's something that is ongoing for me. Well, for me, I've learned that this is my form of like creative and artistic expression. Like, so it's not like there's like this, and I'm gonna reach X, and Y is gonna happen. Like, that's not what this is for me. What it is that I love creating this art, and this art involves, pushing my body, learning, like it's a physical, a visual, it's like an art that exists on so many levels for me, and I love it, and it's challenging, and I love sharing that with people. And the more I'm able to share it with people, not only do I get a form of celebration, right? Because people respond and ask questions, I also get a sense of community from it, which is very important. And then it also gives me opportunity so that I feel like I can continue to create this and do this thing I love. So it is this something that is I've learned is very important to me. And now I understand why it is important to me. And being creative is really a cornerstone, a core value for me. I now have a deeper understanding of why I love doing this and why I do what I do. So, yeah. But it's an ongoing goal. Like, this is something that will continue. So I don't know when to celebrate, but it doesn't feel empty. And I think that's because I have a purpose with it.
And I think you've described a whole lot of purpose and not a whole lot of goals, which is kind of good. Like, there's... I know for a fact from talking to you that there are goals, because we talk about, different things you want to do. But from what you told me is a whole lot of purpose where that's ongoing. There's no end to the purpose. A purpose, but is comprised of a lot of little small goals.
So I think what happens is it becomes micro goals, and I get to celebrate those micro goals. And so for me, it's like, okay, I want to find a way to sink. When I say sink, it means bring 40 feet underwater and achieve a goal of a, giant Bridgerton style wig and a gown, and have a tea party at the and I did that, and like, okay, that's awesome. So like, then it's like, well, what can I do next? Where can I push the bound next? And already ideas are forming, and each one is a little celebration because it's this planning, and I'm sure there's chemicals, and hormones that are being released in that process, in the planning process, and the whole thing that feed it in a great way. But I love it.
But that concept of celebration, I think, is interesting, because one thing I've learned is that I actually don't really know how to celebrate my achievements. And I've had to figure out, like, what does that even look like for me? One of the things that we read mentioned just the idea of like savoring. And so I like the term basking, like basking in the sun. And so I will just sometimes, when I accomplish something and someone will ask me how I'm celebrating it or what am I doing, I'm just like, I'm just basking in it. Like, I'm literally just every day, several times a day, just going, oh my God, you did that. Good for you. You're amazing, or whatever. I'm just like sitting in that accomplishment. But I didn't know that until I became a coach. Like, I used to celebrate by like drinking. Like, I didn't know how to celebrate any other way. I had to learn new ways to really like feel like I'm celebrating myself and my accomplishment without, doing something like that.
In keeping with our theme for self-sabotage, maybe reward yourself with a cigarette.
No, but that's what's so. I mean, she brings that up, but that's what I used to equate celebration with the same thing. Like, let's go out, let's party, let's celebrate,
Right.
let's pop champagne, let's
Yeah.
but I don't. Or let's celebrate by eating. I used to celebrate with food, and I used to. So I had to completely myself too learn how to. Now that those aren't things I do, I've had to learn how to celebrate in different ways. And I love the new ways I celebrate. And I think one of the things that we were talking about with this, or in some of our reading with this concept of languishing, and one of the ways to avoid feeling like we're languishing was that sense of community. To have a sense of community was part of it. And so I find it interesting that for me, I both do and don't need community to celebrate. How do you guys? What do you? I mean, do you tell somebody when you've accomplished something, or do you just keep it all?
It depends on what it is. Sometimes if I have access to a community that I can celebrate something with, I will, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's really just for me and like my inner circle, like the 5 people that I talk to, the most. That's it. And that's sometimes enough.
Yeah.
My new way of celebrating isn't as glamorous or sexy as the old way. But it's better. It feels better. It feels more authentically me.
Yeah, those smaller celebrations, those are, when it comes to a bigger celebration, I'd like that to be shared, but kind of a personal win, something like that. That's something that fulfills me to the point where I kind of extend that to go do something by myself, which is, again, it's nothing crazy, it's just I'm at a point where I feel happy enough and to the point where I don't have to bring somebody along to do something that I've been wanting to do, if that makes sense. So without that win, I wouldn't be able to do it as comfortably, I guess. So that's, again, that allows me to celebrate in that moment.
I'll say this: I celebrate with the people who get it, like would understand, like, you know what I mean? Because I've had moments where like I was excited about something and like tried to explain it to somebody and they didn't get it, and it's just like, okay. So like, like when I got a Pilates move, and it was one time, and I've gotten it a few times since, but it's very hard. The first time I nailed this Pilates move, it took me 2 years of working towards this, being able to do this move. And I really told 2 people, and I told the 2 people who would understand, right? Like that was, they were fellow Pilates teachers and had been through the same program I had been through and know the difficulty of that move. And and that was enough. Hey, I did it. That's pretty cool. 2 years of work. I'd honestly work every single day. So it definitely, I think that is part of it, is like where that sense of community comes in, is having other people who understand, I guess, what you've been working towards.
Yeah. Which is important for coaches who are working towards, credentialing, working towards building a business. Without that community to celebrate with, it can feel lonely, because who's going to get it other than other coaches? I mean, of course, some other people might get it. That's possible. But, the coaches struggle, or, I mean, I don't know who else gets it other than other coaches as much as we do.
Well, probably partners along the journey with us.
Sure.
Will probably get it. And then they might not. It just depends on their ability to celebrate as well.
I think it can be also like, if we have a support group as coaches and we have a client that achieves something, we are not allowed to celebrate in the way we would naturally celebrate with our clients.
Yeah.
But I don't know a coach who wouldn't turn to somebody who was also a coach and say, oh my God, outside of that session, I just had a client, we've been working together for 9, months or 6 months, and awesome breakthrough just happened. And like another coach is going to get that, right? Like another coach is going to be like, that's badass, like, et cetera. And you can celebrate in that moment where you couldn't celebrate in the session with the client in maybe a way that feels more natural. Also in that thing, what you were saying about having some understanding, I think this comes into play also with our clients as coaches, and in understanding, being somebody that can understand their successes and when they've achieved something, and maybe even identify when they've achieved something and don't know it or realize it, or aren't allowing themselves to celebrate, are sort of running past their achievements. Or it might be an indicator, like if they achieve something and they're not, it doesn't seem like they're excited about it. That's a great opportunity for us to ask into what they're feeling around accomplishment, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think this can absolutely be something that comes up in coaching. Has anybody ever experienced something like this as a coach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the idea of them missing what it is that they're, they'll talk through it and miss it completely, what they've just shared, and need to, find their, as Brooke, or as Jen said, their basking moment, whatever that looks like for them, and spend a moment recognizing that achievement and, what is it they learned about themselves and their capability and their now expertise, and on down the list.
I've seen a lot of moving goalposts. So like when the client accomplishes one of the steps, it's just real quick glossed over onto the next. I can't be happy until I achieve the whole big thing. And it's like, well, hold on. How is that serving you to just move right past that accomplishment? A lot of times that moment of just checking in on that will make them go, yeah, actually, I should give myself a little more credit for that. Yeah. Something like that usually happens for me.
I know I tend to share, a lot about me and my personal, things going on, but I feel like that brings it to a good place of understanding. And I'm just willing to be the one, I guess, that like puts all her junk on the table. So I think one of the things that Jen and I, we've coached on, like Jen and I are coaching one another, and she's been coaching me on my body image. And we've had issues like weight come up, and how easily I can fixate on a number on a scale, and in that process lose focus of all of these other achievements and changes and things that I could be celebrating and focusing on. But it becomes very easy to fixate on this singular metric, right? And I think that is something we have coached on plenty of times, and it's definitely an indication of I'm achieving things, but I'm not celebrating because I'm letting this one thing dictate how I should be feeling. And I think that is a big coaching moment, a very important coaching moment. If you apply it in other situations, it doesn't have to be just about body image, but definitely something that can happen in every aspect of life. Where a client's so fixated on one thing that they're ignoring all of the other accomplishments they're achieving.
And or imposter syndrome can be playing a part of that too.
Yeah, where they don't feel like they deserve it.
Yeah.
Anthony, looks like you're thinking.
Food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a lot. Not a lot of ways. I think we're talking about one particular instance of how people manage or deal with or overcome that sense of emptiness that they might feel when they achieve a goal. The purpose of feeling satisfied. I'm trying to think of what would be the benefit of just sitting with it for a little bit. That uncomfortable feeling. Like if a client was like, I don't feel, I achieved this something, but I feel empty. Maybe the move isn't to, say, hey, like, let's focus on how do you celebrate,
No. Well, that's the
Yeah.
last thing I would do as a
Yeah.
coach.
Well, I feel like we're talking a lot about that, but what benefit do we get from just sitting in the emptiness and letting the client or yourself stew in that feeling for a while?
I wouldn't even ask them to stew in it either. If a client said to me, I achieved something and I'm feeling empty, I would ask about that feeling of emptiness. I would ask into that. I'd be like, tell me more about what empty means.
Yeah, you don't just gloss over that and say, well, let's celebrate.
No, you should
get that feeling.
You got to feel better. Like, that's the last thing. I would be curious about I'm not there to guide my client to feel better about anything unless they have set that as the goal. And then I'm just asking questions, and they're the ones bringing themselves to that place, right?
Well, that kind of leads me to maybe try to clarify what it is actually we're talking about. When we're talking about feeling empty, I feel like we're talking metaphorically about something, but I'm not exactly sure what. Because if we're talking literally, like, empty of what? Like, what should be... We're kind of presuming that something should be filled up, whether that's your person or your psyche.
If the person thinks that their accomplishment or achievement is going to make them feel fulfilled, I've used this. Remember, I said if I hike this mountain, I'm gonna feel fulfilled, right? And they do it, and then they don't feel fulfilled, or they feel the opposite of it, or they feel something in between. That's, I think, what we're talking about. That at least that's what I thought we were talking about. Is like this idea that the achievement's going to give them this feeling, and then they achieve it, and they feel differently.
Okay.
And I think it can manifest itself in a few different ways. I think that one of the ways is that person can be using achievements to treat a deeper problem, right? Like they're achieving in order to feel a certain way about something that may not have to be directly related to what they are achieving. Essentially, like it's that if I make $100,000 tomorrow, I'm going to be happy, and you expect this sense of happiness to sustain you, right? And be lasting. And then they find out that they've done that, and that happiness doesn't sustain, and it's not the solution to all their problems. And I think that's one way that this feeling of emptiness can come up. I think the other way that this sense of emptiness or what have you can come up is that we have an expectation to feel a certain way, and then we find out that there are more complex emotions than just that single feeling, where we say, I am going to feel so good and so great, but then we get there and we find out, there's more going on. There are other emotions coming up I didn't expect to come up. And what does this mean? And people can interpret that a lot of different ways, and it can have a lot of different cause people to react in a lot of different ways. So, and I think it's true of everybody. I don't think anybody ever just feels one emotion 100% for any lasting period of time. Let's say maybe for minutes, seconds, hours, but eventually it's going to come to an end, and there's going to be other stuff that comes up.
Yeah, it's like the duality of the feeling of achieving it and closing that chapter or that season. And now you've just opened a new chapter, a new season, and you've got a new feeling of like, oh, now that I've done this, I have to think about this, or I have to worry about this, or this is next. It's like you're sitting with potentially dueling emotions.
Oh,
Muted,
Brooke,
Brooke.
you're muted.
I think Jen kind of had a moment of that. I won't say about what or anything, but I know that we spoke about a moment where she was like,
Yep.
oh, that's what this is, you know, and the result of feeling like, you know, it was going to be one big celebration and finding out there were other emotions there was a learning moment, right, Jen?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. I mean, this is frequent for me, to be honest with you, is like, I've just learned that typically I don't experience one emotion at a time. When something good happens, there's also, Lisa, you were mentioning it earlier, this idea of like, how did it affect other people? Immediately, I'm like concerned about how me, you know, doing something well or good or achieving something has impacted other people. And it's just, I've learned to just, it's part of who I am. I actually am like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I don't see it as a bad thing. I've just come to learn to expect it, which learning that about myself has been really helpful, because now I mean, of course it can catch me off guard sometimes because I'm still a silly human, but like for the most part, I realize, oh, that's coming. Like, yeah.
So in your preparedness, it doesn't take away from your ultimate happiness from that situation.
My preparedness doesn't take away.
As far as you understanding that might occur, multiple feelings.
Yes, exactly. That actually makes it better because I'm not hit with the shock of another emotion when I was just expecting it to be all bliss. I'm like, oh, of course there's half bliss and half concern for other people. Of course there is. Yep, that's how I experience things.
It's a term that sort of starts to come up. It comes up in the spooky woo-woo world. They might call it like integration, or they might call it being holistic. But right. It's or shadow work even, where it's as we begin to grow and learn about ourselves and the complexity of our emotions, we begin to learn that it isn't always just one feeling. There's so much more going on, and we, instead of ignoring it or pushing it down, or which it might be the person who is running from, you know, expecting it to solve their problems, getting there and finding out it's not. There's probably some growth or exploration that needs to happen in that person. Whereas where Jen is at, she has done the growth and exploration, and rather than asking or just, you know, saying it's empty and pursuing the next thing, she's learning to understand, embrace, and accept that she has more than one emotion in her wins, in her achievements. It's not going to just be you know, puppies, kittens, and sunshine. She's a more complex human being than that.
Yes, the complexity of achievement is real.
And I think personally that's so cool, right? Like, who wants to be a one-note person? Like, I think it is wonderful and beautiful that we are capable of feeling other things, of asking how what we're doing and wondering how it might sell or affect other people, and just being able to acknowledge all of those sides of ourselves, because we all have them. I think unless, you know, you've got some kind of weird thing going on, that probably.
I mean, it would be nice to be a little simpler. I'm not going to lie. It would be nice to just experience pure bliss and nothing else.
But we don't know that. I mean, we don't know that because what happened, you know, who knows?
That's true. I don't know.
I guess if we're in pure bliss, though, it's always going to be great. So
I guess it wouldn't be pure bliss if it wasn't blissful.
I would wonder what the long-term ramifications, like people around you and like everything around you, would be of just being in a permanent bliss state, no matter what was going on or how things were, you know, deteriorating. You're just like, life is good.
Like being a golden retriever 24/7.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's what it reminds me of is people who are capable of feeling pain. Like, there is a genuine disorder, and it turns out to be very dangerous, because people are like, as kids and growing up and even as adults, if you aren't capable of feeling like physical pain, you don't know when your hand is sitting on a burner, and you don't know, you might have an itch and itch yourself so badly that you break and rip your skin. A lot of the kids, they have to pull all their teeth out, and they end up without teeth because as they're growing up and teething, and they bite so hard on themselves that they end up causing tremendous physical damage because they can't feel pain. So it becomes a very dangerous kind of situation. And so I wonder if being stuck in a state of permanent bliss might result in some very damaging situations. And that you
Probably still wouldn't be a problem to the person who's
maybe
feeling
not to you, maybe not to you, but maybe to everybody around you that loves
Well,
you.
that's their problem for not feeling ultimate bliss 24/7. Okay? You've transcended earthly needs at that point.
I just picture like somebody living in like just terrible squalor and like, just like the worst, and like they're essentially slowly rotting away, but they're happy about it. Like, it's like, no, I don't know. It's a good thing.
I mean, if we go towards the opposite end of like emptiness, where it's like, yeah, just accept it. Like, stop having desires and wants and needs and just become like this ascetic monk that, might look like suffering from one point of view, but, the person who's sort of transcended that is perfectly happy, which I don't know how to coach somebody on getting to that point.
I also wonder if it's actually possible. Like, I wonder if that's actually possible. Like,
try it.
I would love to know what goes like.
Be a Buddhist.
Yeah.
Live in the mountains and try it in the foothill of Tibet. Yes, and then try it for a year. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that train of thought.
Gone. That's okay.
What still needs to be covered? What do we need to wrap up with?
I don't know.
Okay, let's revisit the actual topic. Sabotaging satisfaction. Does achievement leave you feeling empty? So the goal is, we're talking about self-sabotaging. We're talking about sabotaging your own satisfaction. So I'm assuming the goal here is we want to be satisfied when we accomplish our goals. Satisfaction can look different ways to different people. And it could be short amounts of satisfaction. It could be long amounts of satisfaction. Can we agree that satisfaction is temporary, though?
Yes.
It's not something that is
It's not
permanent or lasting or can't just exist on its own. Like, you have to maintain the satisfaction in some sort of way.
For sure.
I think it's important not to always be satisfied, because I think that's what facilitates growth.
So when a client, I don't think I don't think most coaches assume that when a client is talking about their satisfaction and what they want to achieve in life, I don't think we go as far to assume that we think that they mean forever. But I think sometimes clients talk about their happiness and fulfillment, their satisfaction in such a way that, it might be useful for the coach to question, well, what comes after that? How long do you think the satisfaction will last, and what will come after we achieve these goals?
I had a thought, if I can interrupt a second. What if someone thought satisfaction, based on what you're saying now, what if their thought was, or experience is, they think they want it to last and it isn't? Would that be a disappointment too?
It might, but I would probably explore a little bit further on how the client views it, Brooke.
I think that what a big part of this is asking our client to define what satisfaction, what the expectation for satisfaction is, because I think it can vary greatly person to person. And I think a lot of us, I dare say all of us, everybody here and everybody listening, doesn't sit down and actually know, okay, wait, when do I know that I'm satisfied? Like, how do I don't think a lot of us have defined it and defined it in situation to situation. And I think that is so important, and it's something that a coach can be very important to help clarify with a client is to ask into, okay, so what does satisfaction feel like for you? What does it look like? How do you know when you're satisfied? And then really start to define that, so that then you can go, okay, now that we know what satisfaction is, how do we apply that, if it's something they want, to your achievements? How do we make that, how do you make that happen? Is that possible? What has to happen?
As you were talking, I thought another, contraindication would be someone achieving something and then feeling like they're going to get lazy from that point on, that they did all this work.
Amen. No, that's again, in my coaching with Jen, it's something I'm scared of, scared of sliding back, scared of gaining weight again, scared of, that is a genuine fear that inhibits my satisfaction, because I will live in fear state, because fear state motivates me, right? Self guilt, shame, those can all be great motivators, right? And so I've been working with Jen on learning new ways to motivate myself that aren't in those more negative places. And that's a goal I have set for myself, that I want to learn. I want to not have to beat myself up to achieve things and feel good about myself again. I want to be able to instead be happy and satisfied and celebrate my wins and still be motivated. And I even had to learn that I'm not that person that's going to slide back anymore. Somebody so very easy to do. I think, especially if you're somebody who is prone to motivating yourself from a negative space.
Most of us are. That's a really normal societal motivator that we receive at some point in our lives, that we've internalized, is that's what makes me do things. Yeah.
And with it comes that fear. If I'm not, if I stay and celebrate too long and I'm happy too long, everything's gonna eventually go back, and I'm gonna be unhappy again. So it's an interesting mental balance, and definitely something that comes up in sessions with clients, for sure.
It's that shoe, the other shoe's gonna drop concept that I was speaking about in the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Now that it was a successful interruption of Anthony, did you want to continue?
I don't have any more to add. I think I've got a lot of thoughts sort of swirling around, but I don't think they, especially this late into the live, are really that relevant.
And that's why you write blogs too, so that you can just.
Well, that's why I edit blogs.
Yeah, there we go. Edit blogs.
Writing blogs causes its own set of issues for me. I don't know. I was thinking about maybe trying to evaluate how you're already satisfied, because to me, satisfaction is you fulfill the desire and you no longer have that desire. So I'm satisfied right now of hunger, because I don't feel hungry. I'm satisfied that,
Yeah, but your hunger's going to come back.
Yeah, I know, but I don't feel that currently. We're talking hypothetically in the future. I will feel hungry, which I probably will. But right now I'm satisfied.
Okay.
But I don't consider that until I'm actually forced to think about the ways in which I'm already satisfied, because I currently don't have that desire. So I don't know how this would come up in a coaching, elegantly in a coaching session, but thinking about if my client is so concerned about satisfaction in their life, well, in what ways are they already satisfied? And are you merely looking for satisfaction to alleviate boredom? Or is this a genuine desire and a need that you need to fulfill? And maybe that will help reevaluate, what goals are important in their life.
I think I'm a little confused by that last statement, and I know we're closing up, and so I should probably be quiet. But
I'm not that sure about what I mean either. So
okay.
if you're looking for clarification, I don't know if I can offer it.
I'll say though, like, I mean, I'm not going to tell one person. I can be very motivated to eliminate boredom, and I'm fine with that. I don't enjoy being bored. So that can be a great motivator for me, and it's just fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
let's take the eating example. Like, are you eating to satisfy your desire for
that
food?
is a good,
or are you
very
eating
good point.
to satisfy your desire to not be bored?
And as you were sharing, that was one of the things I was thinking of too, this feeling of satisfaction. Like, it could be very easy for me to decide that I can only be satisfied at the end of my meal if I eat something that, you know, is horrible for me or what have you. And that's how I gain my satisfaction. So I do, which might be very unhealthy, and I might ruin other parts of my life, right? It's that short-term thinking versus long-term, short-term satisfaction versus long-term satisfaction. And I think that has to come up with this. Is today's Brooke, you know, building roadblock for the Brooke from a week from today, and knowing the difference there. And so I think there is a feeling of balance that has to come up with this too, where, you know, we can't be a hedonist all the time. We have to
Look at Anthony.
choose our moments.
We could.
Choose our moments of pleasure,
Speak for yourself.
and then be satisfied and be like, that is enough for me. At least, I mean, I do.
I have where I'm satisfied, but yet I'll feel an urge for more, and I just acknowledge it and go, yeah, of course you want more. That was really freaking good. And that's it. Like, I just acknowledge it, like, and then I move on. It used to, though, like, control me to where I would have to follow the urge in order to like silence it. But now I just meet it with, yeah, of course you want more. But I also have a lot of awareness of the dopamine balance scale. So I know when I tip too far in pleasure, it's going to tip itself back, because there's a homeostatic mechanism in our brains that involves dopamine. And so there's a pleasure pain balance. And so when I want more, I'm aware of, I'm going to tip the scale too far, and then I'm going to feel not so great after. Do I want that? And it's usually no, I don't actually want that. So I'll settle for what I got. The satisfaction I got is enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at our
I think
time.
that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Just want to mention before we sign off, we got one more week of self-sabotage. So join us next week at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another CLCI Live. And we have a sale that's finishing up. It'll be done next Monday. So
You know what will leave you feeling satisfied? Taking our classes.
advance that education. Keep learning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be satisfying.
People who take our classes, when they finish class, are living in ultimate bliss.
They are permanently satisfied.
They're permanently happy and satisfied. Just look at our 5-star reviews. They are ecstatic.
There's hundreds.
It's better than drugs and alcohol and all other sorts of things. Take our classes. You will find long-term peace and happiness by doing so.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week.